Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the I Am CDB project. I, of course, am your host, CDB. You are not. And today, I'm going to do a video about my first two recommended razors for new wet shavers. But I'm going to do it in the format of a shaving video because how better to talk about shaving while actually shaving. I'll get to the razors and why I think these should be your first two or something like it. But first, let me talk about the equipment we're going to use today in terms of soap. Coconut Lime by Shannon Soaps. Beautiful, beautiful coconut lime scent. Very good quality soap. I really like Shannon and her husband, Brian. Shannon Soaps, as I've mentioned a number of times throughout the year. Very, very good people. So support people like Shannon and Brian and your favorite, not only Shannon and Brian, but I personally think that there's so many vendors now and your money only goes so far. So if you want to see the ones that you really appreciate stay in business, support those primarily, then you can try other new things as well. But if you want to keep these folks afloat, spend your money with the ones who you think are, provide the best value and that you want to see stick around. It could be Sterling, could be Katie's Bubbles. I mean, I could go on and on. There are many people that deserve to stay in business, but I'm sure it's a very competitive business now. So make sure you're supporting those who you want to see stick around using the Razor Rock Big Bruce brush, which I haven't used for a while. But before we get too far along, I want to announce the winner of the giveaway, Alan Liston, who entered for the giveaway. You will win the honey mash. He already sent the address, so I will just mail this out to you this week. Congrats, Alan. Don't worry for the rest of you. I'll have another giveaway soon, maybe as soon as tomorrow. We'll see. Let me wet the face and then we'll get into this video because I don't want to be rambling around, babbling on endlessly without even getting started. So, in terms of recommendations for first razors, you'll see a lot of information on this, but I'm going to give you my recommendations based on my own personal experience. The first razor that you get, I think it needs to be non-adjustable. And the reason I say that is because you'll have an inclination to fool around with the adjustments before you even know how to properly shave. And that's going to take a couple of months before your face gets used to this style of shaving. It is different. And at first, it's a little rough for a lot of people. Your face has to get used to it. It's different from cart shaving, feels different, totally different experience. At first, I think for most people, you need to start out on the mild side. And you need to get yourself either a Merkur 34C, like this, or an Edwin Jagger, which I have somewhere in my storage. I just don't know where it is. This one or the Edwin Jagger, either one will do just fine. And learn the basics of wet shaving. There's many, many videos on how to shave. I've got some. There's people like Mantic, Geo Fat Boy. The list goes on and on and on. Many, many good tutorials on starting out. But get yourself, I just dropped my Merkur 34C. Stand by. Get yourself something like this and use it for a couple of months. You're going to be tempted to buy a bunch of razors early on before you even know what you're doing, like I did. And then you will assume that a lot of them aren't for you, like I did, stupid. And you don't even know what you're doing. And so you'll buy, sell. And then later, you'll likely buy the same razor because you didn't know what you were doing. And then you'll find it wasn't so bad after all. So buy something like a Merkur 34C, Edwin Jagger DE89, and give it a shot first. That's first. After a few months, you've got your technique down, your face is sort of broken in and used to this style of shaving. Get yourself a razor, an adjustable second razor, not first. And the reason I don't recommend this razor as your first stop is you're going to be tempted right off the bat to be adjusting, and you don't need to be adjusting. Most people don't. I think it's best just to start with a fixed type razor that doesn't have adjustment early on, because you're going to be tempted to make all sorts of adjustments and you don't even know what you're doing yet. And you go, oh, I know how to shave. Well, it's not the same. It is not the same, and it takes time to learn the correct pressure, the correct angle, you know, what your face requires, what it will tolerate, what it will not. And it is different from a cart. Now, as you all know, I don't exclude carts from my kit. I use them, you know, when I feel like it. Well, they are just fine, but this is a different style and your face needs some time to adjust. So when you've spent a few months in on that first razor, then get yourself an adjustable like the Merkur Progress or the Parker variant, or even a vintage Gillette Fat Boy or Slim or Black Beauty. Now keep in mind, if you get a vintage, they're always less aggressive. Even at their most aggressive settings, they are less aggressive than these. There's also adjustables like Merkur Future, but they're a little cumbersome. I would not recommend that as your second razor. It's a good razor, but I wouldn't recommend that early on. Something like this, again, mine's a Merkur because it has the metal knob, but just get the Progress or a Parker variant or something like that. Make that your second razor, and then you can begin to sort of adjust and get the aggressiveness where you prefer it. Try different settings, and your face is already accustomed to this style shaving and brushing and all that. And so if you do it as your first, I just don't think it's a good idea, because you're going to be adjusting and you won't know what's wrong when you get irritation, or you know, you cut yourself or whatever the case may be. So my recommendation is make it your second stop, an adjustable. And then from there, you know, you can sort of try different things, but there is no need to buy a ton of razors early on, especially a bunch of non-adjustables right out of the gate. As your number 2 razor, get that adjustable. That's going to give you a lot of different settings and experiences to dabble in, and then you can figure out, do I like medium aggressiveness or aggression, as the case may be? Do I like it on the mild side? Once you figure that out, then you can sort of experiment with other razors and buy other ones and say, okay, I like, you know, mild, medium, or super aggressive. And you can sort of, you know, address whatever your preferences are, but you cannot address them early on. If you go super aggressive, you may not enjoy that. If you go super, super mild, you may not enjoy that. And the only way to really figure it out is through experience. So I recommend, you know, like I said, and I'm repeating this for a reason, because most people don't listen. I didn't. And I wasted a heck of a lot of money for no good reason. Just buying all these razors, you know, and just going whole hog. And all the veterans at the time, veterans of shaving, not military veterans, but were very quick to say, hey, you know, slow down. You don't need to do all that. But of course, I'm like, oh, I want to experience all this stuff. In retrospect, I should have listened, because they knew what they were talking about. I ended up selling some razors and then buying them again later, because I didn't know what I was doing early on. And so it takes time. And if you take your time and figure out what you truly seem to prefer and what truly works best, then you can make some informed decisions about how to spend your money. Because it's not about just wasting all kinds of money like I did, just buying everything in sight and trying everything to figure out what you like. It's fun, but it's not wise. Take it from someone who knows. It's not wise to do that. It's better to be a little more measured in your approach, and at least when it comes to hardware early on, just buy a couple. Get that first razor and then get that adjustable. You don't need to go hog wild on brushes either. Maybe get yourself a Badger, a Boar, and a synthetic. Figure out what you like. Buy them inexpensively. Do not waste a lot of money on super high-end brushes until you have figured out your preferences, because If you spend $300-400 on some so-called super premium Badger, and then later you find that you like a $12 synthetic, you'll feel foolish because you've wasted a lot of money on this so-called super exotic Badger, in my opinion, which is marked up way too high. And you'd be better off just getting a inexpensive board, breaking it in. You'll get largely the same experience. It will become very soft, and you will have spent a lot less money, I should say, in that pursuit. And so that will allow you to pursue other soaps, because with soaps and aftershaves and so forth, there's so many different scents. That's really where it is. You can figure out the brand you like, or the one that really works well for you and the ingredients that work well soap-wise. And then you can experience all sorts of different scents if you haven't spent a ton of money on hardware. Because, you can buy some very expensive razors, and you can get, in some cases, 10 or 15 soaps on what you would pay for one high-end razor. Now, once you figure out what your preferences are, it's fine if you want to buy a higher-end razor like Above the Tie, or you name it, Timeless, or you pick the vendor, But wait until you have established what your preferences are, and don't assume you know them within a couple of weeks, because you will not, most likely. And I'm just telling you this from experience. One of the things that I've tried to do over the years is be transparent and honest. And when things happen to me, or I learn them, I share them. That's been the whole point of the channel. And I've learned over time that listen to the folks who have been doing it for a while. That's pretty good advice across the board in life, is listen to those who have experience. We're sort of in a world now where experience and expertise is not appreciated for whatever reason. And I'm telling you, that is not the direction that we need to be going. Let's listen to these people with experience. At least take it into consideration. I'm not saying that you have to agree, but at least listen, because they're talking, having spent a considerable amount of time exploring these things. And you may find that you disagree, but it is worth considering. And I know in my case, I had so many people giving me good counsel that I didn't ignore it. But I said, I just want to experience this stuff. And I get that. But I'm telling you, if you don't go hog wild on hardware earlier, razors and brushes, it will allow you to experience more software and more inexpensive things. And then you can figure out what your preferences are. You can figure out which brands you like. You don't have to try every single brand. You can figure out which ones you really like, which ones you really like to do business with, and do business with those companies. Keep them afloat. Get the type of quality that you want. You don't have to have it all. And it will do no good to have it all, because believe me, I got a lot of stuff in there I never, ever use. And I've gotten rid of hundreds of soaps and aftershaves over the years. Just lost money, It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it was really a waste, when it comes down to it. It was fun at the time, but now I'm like, I would have rather used that on, say, knives or fishing, or maybe a vacation or something like that, At any rate, we're going to fishing off today with Sterling Island Mant, another coconutty, tropical type scent, which I really like, and a company that I really like to do business with, Rod and Mandy at Sterling. Again, we use coconut lime from Shannon Soaps. Good people, good companies. Both companies here I can recommend with confidence. Very good people, very good companies, and I want to thank everybody once again for watching. And remember, if you find some value in this video, share it. Share it with your friends or new people who are just coming into traditional type shaving, because I think this is wise advice to settle in first on a razor like this, Merkur 34C or Edwin Jagger DE89, then follow it up with an adjustable like the Merkur Progress or Parker variant, something along those lines. I think it's wise. I think it'll serve you well, and please share it if you agree or find value in it. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, I've been your host, CDB. You are not. God bless.